All Fire, No Smoke is our candid conversation as two military aviators sharing the unique experiences we've had in combat, reconnaissance, and demonstration flying.
Through personal stories, technical details, and laughter, we explore the challenges of balancing leadership, motherhood, professional life, all while offering inspiring insights for those who are trying to strike that work-life balance.
Brought to you today by...
by Colon Blow, your favorite. Sorry. Hey, so we're back. All Fire, No Smoke. As you see, we're still uncensored, unfiltered, and still having fun. And we have a great guest today. My friend, my fellow U2 sister, Heather Fox, retired colonel. Do you go by HF or Princess?
I answer to both, including "Hey you," "Idiot," all the things. What's up?
Which call sign do you like the best?
That's tough. So Princess, and I feel like I have to tell the story because
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. The short version is because they knew how expressly much I would dislike it.
Were you high maintenance? Say it ain't so. Precious.
Dude, no, come on, man. You know me.
I know.
So, all right. So I don't know if it's covered in any of the previous episodes, but U2 pilot, like you got to integrate in a suit and you got to pre-breathe oxygen and all that kind of stuff. And so another pilot, your mobile pilot, does like all that stuff for you. And so we call whoever's flying that day is the king for the day, because you have stuff done that in normal aircraft ops you would do yourself. So king for the day. So it's my very first mission in Korea, and two knuckleheads who will not be named went to pick me up, and they're like, all right, okay, first one, king for a day. And they're like, well, that's not right. Queen for a day. Oh, that doesn't seem right either. And they're like, oh, like princess. How about princess for the day? And I was like, I made that stupid, dumb young person rookie mistake. Like, oh my God, like, come on, really? And they're like, oh, she doesn't like princess. And then we're sitting there briefing, and I said, hey, can you please pass the sugar for my coffee? And they're like, God, you're so high maintenance.
Don't ask for cream. Whatever
Right?
you do.
How dare you?
And then one of the things the mobile is supposed to do is load your navigational plan into basically kind of like the nav computer. And this highly experienced mobile had neglected to do that. So if there's no nav plan and you click in the autopilot and tell it to start doing the nav plan, the airplane, just goes into a hard bank and isn't, yeah. Right? And so
You've got a lot of altitude.
The weather, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit,
You've got a lot of altitude to recover though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they're asking me something. I'm like, hang on, I'm troubleshooting something, whatever. And then like finally we figure it out, and I get the nav plan in, and then all's well. And so then of course they're like, God, you're so demanding. You wanted your nav plan loaded. Like,
I did not know all this.
Yeah. And then, it was the naming ceremony after I'd gone back, and a couple months later, and I'm still sort of chafing at this a little bit. And you have the opportunity to attempt to buy off your name at the naming ceremony. And for anyone who hasn't been, it's just a fantastic event, typically done in a squadron bar, or, we don't really have bars anymore. So in our case, a squadron heritage room. Heritage. And so I had brought a bunch of money to try to buy off this name.
How much?
I think I had put down maybe $200 or $300. And my squadron commander at that point, I remember he came up to me, and I'll never forget it, because he's like, stop wasting your money, because there is no amount of money or booze that you can buy for the bar that will replace the satisfaction that I get when I see on the look on your face when I call you princess. It's just like,
that is amazing.
Just got to roll with it.
Just got to.
Yeah.
So then I sort of embraced it. But then when I started working for General Dunford, it was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Mm-mm.
General Dunford said, "No, I'm not calling you princess."
Yeah, well, I think it might have been his chief of staff. He had a Navy 06 who was a SEAL who was, I think it was him actually, that was like, yeah, no, we're not putting him in that position to have to call you. Nope.
I think General Dunford, he was so cool that he probably would have behind doors or like in a setting said, "Hey, princess, come here," and everyone had been like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. Right. Well, after that, I remember my first command job, so squadron commander, and so kind of my one-up commander, my group commander sat down and was like, "What do you go by?" And I was kind of like, "Well, princess, but just like HF lately because of whatever." And he was like, "Hey, look, do what you want, but there's certain call signs that are okay as like a line pilot, but you're a commander. Think about whether or not you want your peeps calling you princess." So it was like, well,
Absolutely. If I went back to the wing and you were a princess, I'd be like, "I work for the princess." I would have,
Pride.
I would have gotten an English accent and started speaking, "Milady, what would you like today?"
yeah.
Gen-
Yeah.
General Dunford is a scary looking guy. I was actually at the gym at Fort Myer, and it was
Oh,
like
wow.
a 5 o'clock in the morning, and he walked in, and I was doing push-ups, and I couldn't stop doing push-ups until he walked out because I didn't want to look like a pansy in front of him, right?
Yeah, he was hardcore. I think he certainly did. Like, I don't think any Marine Corps infantry officer doesn't look
Oh yeah,
hardcore.
yeah, you could tell
But
a mile away. Yeah,
right, yeah. But just a super fantastic, kind, thoughtful. I can't say enough good things. However, yeah, the fitness, was amazing. I remember the first time I traveled with him, we took off on a C-17 from Andrews, touched down at Ramstein, Germany for fuel, and then took off again and landed in was Kandahar or Bagram. So you've been flying for whatever it was, hours and hours, and it was through the night. And then we landed, staff is doing our staff stuff, and he immediately changes and goes and hits the treadmill. And we're just like, wow. And so he was still running marathons at that point. And I don't know how old, I want to say maybe 60s or something. And he was, running laps around the rest of us.
That sounds amazing. General Dunford, if you ever listen to this, let's pad up and let's box. I'm ready.
Careful.
I know. He'll
Careful.
probably box my ears off, but it would be fun to get in there because he's really cool. And then we'll interview after.
Yeah, right, there you go. Yeah, just totally fantastic individual. Incredibly thoughtful, nice, supportive, just awesome. Yeah, can't say enough good things.
So before you work for General Dunford, Heather Fox was second lieutenant. What was your commissioning source? Tell us a little bit about like how you came up through the ranks.
So Air Force Academy. Blaze and I were just talking because it turns out we both had been in the same squadron, not at the same time, but proud chicken hawks.
That's right.
Started in Mighty Mach 1, and Blaze, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like the one that you starred in is sort of the one that's like closest to your heart. But
yeah, you went through hell there.
Yeah. So some of them have very different personalities, and Mighty Mach 1, the first cadet squadron, was not known for being, sort of warm and cuddly to its freshmen. Yeah. So, so came in. I had the honor of being the oldest cadet in my class, which I know specifically because at ring dance, what you do at the end of your junior year, they have the oldest cadet and the youngest cadet to try to, sort of signify the entire class goes and cuts a cake. And I just remember that because I was the oldest cadet, and the youngest cadet was a fantastic individual whose name I forgot, but he was just wonderful about it. But he was probably about 18 inches shorter than I am. And they had this whole like little ceremony where you had to come down like these like spiral staircase, and because it was a male and a female, like they had this whole thing where like, I was holding his proffered elbow, and it was just really awkward.
Do you have a video or pictures we can put up on our Instagram page for our viewers or listeners?
So I'm glad that this was the late 90s and not everybody had an iPhone. If there are pictures, I have not seen them. I did not want to see pictures afterwards.
It's just burned into your brain. That's enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Air Force Academy, and essentially I grew up riding and competing horses, which is why I was such an oldie going in.
Are you a dressage person?
Oh, good Lord, no.
Okay, thank goodness, because I was like, why do we get along? Because dressage people are a little, no offense to the dressage world, but you guys are a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did like jumping. So like we would kind of say like jumping was like the hockey players and dressage was like the figure skate figure skaters, right? Hockey players, figure skaters.
Yes.
Yeah. So we did that for a little bit. I also went to high school in Canada, and I believe they've changed, but the province of Ontario, where I was, also did 13 grades. So there was a couple things that led up to me being the oldest cadet. I know, right?
Oh, wow. I learned a lot today about Canada. All right, cool.
Right? Yeah, so horses, didn't want to do anything like behind a desk, I guess, was really kind of the thing. And then whenever I went on a commercial airliner, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I remember probably in junior high doing a science report or something on like how an airplane wing works. And it was just mind blowing. And I was like, yeah, I want to fly airplanes. So, I mean, that was kind of it.
That's awesome. So from there, academy, you went to UPT. What did you select out of the academy? I mean, out of UPT, excuse me. Just undergraduate pilot training for all those out there listening.
Right. Yeah. So learning to fly. So I really wanted A10s, and that's what I put as my top thing. But what I got instead is what we call a FAPE, a first assignment instructor pilot in T-38s, which, yeah, I think Blaze is
another cheer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sweet.
We have a lot in common.
Yeah. And they did. So Blaze, I don't know if they did the same thing with you, but like assignment night is this big party in the officers club, and like for each class they do something different, but you get awarded your aircraft in front of people. And I guess at least where I was, they'd had some, poor experiences in the past, or someone faked and was really disappointed and had a meltdown basically on stage. So they didn't want that to happen. So for those of us who faked, we got told that afternoon. And so I remember coming in, it was like my last check ride was that day, and they're like, hey, your boss needs to talk to you. I'm like, oh gosh.
You're like, don't be a T-37, don't be a T-37.
That's exactly
Don't want to fly the tweet for 3 more years.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, first of all, that super ages us. I don't know if you guys have found that, but if you talk to younger pilots, they're like, "Oh, you flew the T-37," and you can hear what they're thinking, which is like, "Oh, you're like that old."
Yeah.
I've never flown it, so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Through the Navy version. Yeah. So I remember as soon as I did it, I'm like, oh gosh, I faked. And we knew that we had one of each. And so Blaze, exactly. I just walked in and I remember like, hey, sir, I'm pretty sure I know I'm here. Just 37 or 38. It was like 38. Like, well, okay. Yeah.
It's a good job, though. I think it teaches you a lot, though, right? Like, not just airmanship, but also like interacting with other people, like working with someone who's under extreme stress, especially when you go cross country. And then you sometimes get people who don't necessarily want to fly with you or listen to you, but then the jet kind of teaches them very quickly that they better pay attention to their instructor. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, the other thing I think it really gave me was confidence. As you know, the three of us know, having gone through UPT, that was like, I found that more challenging than any year at the academy or anything like that, because it was the first time where, like I felt like at the academy, like, let's say, I don't know, you're struggling with a math class or something like that. Like, you can work harder, you can put in more effort, you can study longer and harder, you can, go and talk to the, instructor and all that kind of stuff. But then when I tried to apply that to UPT and flying, staying up all night and studying is not going to make it better, because you also have to be able to relax and perform. And yeah, I mean, I found that a really, really challenging year. And so I always felt anyways, like you were kind of just barely keeping your, my head above the water. And so beyond like all those things that you hit, Blaze, I completely and utterly agree. It was great to, interact in the cockpit and all that kind of stuff, but then also just a lot more confidence for those 3 years. So I'm not going to lie and say that I wasn't disappointed on assignment night that I, got a T-38 instead of my A-10. But I think that it was probably a really good thing, because then when I went on, it turns out to the U2, I think I was a much more confident flyer than, having to go straight into a major weapon system.
Can I ask you guys about that then too? Because I think the U2 is really, really cool, but it seems like an extremely difficult aircraft to fly. At least you have to be like very precise, right? And like the T-38, it's not very forgiving if you're like off on airspeeds, and like there's certain things that you have to do. You really have to pay attention, or it can bite you. So how do you think flying the T-38 set you up to be a stellar U2 pilot?
Merrill?
Is this for? This is a question for you.
Is it for me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, so what I'll say is, and so the other thing too, and if you've covered this already, I apologize. We use the T-38 at Beale Air Force Base with the U2s as a companion trainer, because there's just not enough U2s out there to get all of your currencies and instrument rating and to stay proficient. And it's about as opposite of an aircraft as you can get from the U2. So, T-38, short little stubby wings, for goodness sakes, do not touch the rudder and the landing pattern or it's going to kill you. The U2, you've got to be all over the rudder. It's just so different. And one of the things, though, that I think is great about the T-38 is it is unforgiving, and it goes, and it has really fast approach speeds and all that kind of good stuff. The U2 is outrageously slow, but it was made for high altitude. And so, flies beautifully up at high altitude like a Ferrari. But in pattern altitudes, man, she is like a Mack truck. I mean, it is a push, pull, all out brawl argument, to get that jet to do what you want. And so even though you're going slow, your cross check of things in the cockpit have to be really fast. It's amazing how quickly this airplane will just bite you on the ass in the pattern if you're not paying attention. And so even though it's for different reasons, like I did that ran the companion trainer program for a little bit. We found taking people, especially if they'd come from a multi-crew aircraft, and now we're trying to put them into single seat mindset with a faster cross check. The T-38 did a really great job of kind of forcing them into that. Or what we found too is more of the folks who wash out in the T-38 phase as well. But it does a really great job of getting you into that super fast cross check, kind of single seat mentality, especially as we brought folks over. For me specifically, it was things like as a FAPE, Blaze, I'm sure you kind of the same thing. All of a sudden, like 6 months after you finish pilot training, you're leading a 4-ship formation of T-38s and teaching it, and then having to stand up in front of folks, the other instructors who were typically much more experienced, and debrief things and all that kind of stuff. So to me, it kind of got me, a lot of time outside your comfort zone right in the very beginning, having to lead the types of flight ops that you wouldn't be doing for probably a couple of years yet if you'd gone into a major weapon system. And so again, for me anyways, that was really good confidence building and stuff like that. So then when you kind of we're going to the YouTube and we're like, holy cow, we're going to do what now? You'd had some practice doing things where you had that feeling before of like, you're practice doing what's that? What, we're gonna do what? Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know if that answers it. I don't know, Merrill, would you agree?
Oh, no, I definitely agree. I thought being a helo pilot, going to the T6 and then going to the T38, I actually enjoyed the T38. I think it's easy to fly good, but to master it and make it do like everything, I think it's just takes a little more time and effort. But it was yeah, the cross check a lot faster. Uh as a helicopter pilot, I found it weird to take my feet off the rudder pedals in the 38. You know, I had to get used to that cuz you want to
Yeah.
do coordinated turns, but in the U2, you need to do coordinated turns cuz it does have adverse yaw effects. So, yeah, there is a sense of confidence flying single seat, flying the T-38, and then eventually I became an instructor going through the syllabus at Beale, you know, running a four ship, doing all those things. It's yeah, it definitely builds confidence on this different level. A lot going on at very fast speeds. It's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I I like physically miss getting in the T-38 and firing it up, seeing nods all around. Yeah.
When you're flying the pattern, you can feel it. Like it like rumbles that just kind of that buffeting where it's
Yes.
great. Like you don't even have to look at your airspeed at a certain point because you can just tell by the feel and the sound of the jet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, look at us, all nostalgic. No.
1, 2. So from there, so what attracted you to the U2? Being a FAPE, because A10s was your choice. So what?
Totally.
Yeah. So what? Look, I know why I went to the U2. Like it was part of that for me, the journey to be an astronaut. But for you, why?
Oh, so many things. So I guess to begin with, we had an individual, it was a lieutenant colonel. I think this is the third time I said this. I wish I could remember his name. Names bounce off me, one of those people. But at the academy, it was some sort of biology class, and it was taught by a lieutenant colonel who had been a physiologist with the U2 program at Beale previous to that. So he had been probably the squadron commander of the squadron that does the, oxygen systems, the spacesuit, all that kind of good stuff. And for whatever reason, he had a demo U2 like spacesuit helmet and maybe a suit with him. And during one class, he brought it in, and we all got to kind of check it out and all that kind of stuff as cadets. And he talked about the program and just how neat it was and all that kind of thing. And so that planted the first seed of one day that would be actually really cool to do. So Lieutenant Colonel, whose name I forget, I'm really sorry, but thank you. That day in class was really great. And then I went through and was a T-38 FAPE for a bit, and had always thought I wanted to fly A-10s. And I still think that it would have been fabulous, and it might have just been there was a few specific individuals that I don't think I particularly had a hard time because I was a woman, but there was always the offhanded comments in the hallways and just kind of those things that sometimes you choose to ignore. But it happened to be from this group of guys that were former A-10 pilots, and I was like, I really, really want to do this. I feel good about my skill set, but Blaze, I don't know if you kind of had the same experience, but I felt like in that world there was always going to be a little bit more. I don't know what the right word is, because it really wasn't, I don't think, discrimination, but there was a jocularity, and I'm one of the, as Merrill can attest, I can, but I love having a great time in the bar with the fellas and being just as much of, practical jokes and stuff like that. But there's always a line between having good, clean, just silly, ridiculous fun and having it be, is something that's a little bit more biting, with a little bit more malice behind it.
Yeah, it's like
And
the people who tell jokes that are slightly mean spirited, but then they kind of gaslight you at the end, like, oh, I was just kidding. Why are you so sensitive about it? And it's like, because you low key are shady and you're saying some things that are like off putting, but not quite. They want to see they're like little kids
Yeah.
testing the boundaries. Like, how far can I push this?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I remember one of them was having a drink afterwards, and he was like, "I'm sorry, like the A10s just got their first female squadron commander, and I don't think that that's right, and there's no place for it, and all that kind of thing." And you're just kind of like, ugh. Now, I didn't believe with that, and I didn't agree with him, and wasn't gonna let that impact what I did. But at the same time, you're like,
Yeah.
like to always to have that in your community. And then around the same time, I found out I didn't know that FAPES could go directly to the U2 program. And so somehow I found out that you could, and was just kind of like, huh. And so threw in an application, and I mean, I really didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And then the irony is that as I was getting to the end of my 3 years as being a FAPE, I actually got an A10, which was great. And I found out that I got it like just days before I left to go out and do the interview with the U2 program. And so it was like, all right, cool, fantastic. Well, I'll go out here, check these guys out, see what I think. I mean, hell, maybe they wouldn't even hire me or whatever. But then the feel in the U2 community was so much different. And I think it's like, I know I think Lieutenant Colonel is our most of our folks in just the line squadrons, our largest, most populous rank is a Lieutenant Colonel. And it's just, there's definitely a maturity because they do an interview, folks, that it's basically like, the asshole screener and all that kind of stuff. It just felt like a much different vibe. So when I came out, I wasn't necessarily expecting to say yes, even if I got hired. But then I just so incredibly enjoyed the vibe out there that I was like, oh yeah, these are my people. So
I think
Welcome
there's
to
a
the
good
land of the
leadership
not quite
lesson
right.
in that.
right? Yeah.
And I think there's a good leadership lesson in that too, right? Like you're just hanging out in the bar, having a good time, and you say some offhanded comment to, at that point you were one of the subordinates, and it like literally changed your whole course of history in what you wanted to do. And not saying that it's right or wrong, but I think, people need to be kind of aware, especially, when you're a little bit different. Sometimes I think it's really true, but you have to do twice as much to get half as far. And you kind of have to put up with twice as much stuff as everyone else. So that can be really tough. But on that leadership too, I think it's kind of unique that all three of us are pretty successful leaders, but we came from a single seat community. So what do you think from that single seat? How does that translate in all the leadership that you've been entrusted with, and how you've grown in that aspect of your personal and professional life?
Huh. Yeah, no, it's a real softball place. Thank you.
Anytime.
We came to
Or I can just
play.
ask you guys what your favorite food to eat through a straw was. That's the other. You choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. Apple pie. But yeah, I don't know. So the single seat mentality into leadership role, that's really interesting because I can't say that I've ever thought of it like that before. However, I do, I guess, going back to that notion of getting practice being uncomfortable. And until you just said it, Blaze, I guess I'd never really connected those dots, but I can remember times being a first lieutenant and a four-ship leading a four-ship back, through the weather and feeling like really uncomfortable, but there's nothing for it except to dig in and keep concentrating and keep sorting it out, from the back seat of the T-38 where you can't see anything. And so, yeah, I mean, now that you say it, or being in a single engine jet by yourself over Afghanistan and having an engine problem, right? I mean, there's nothing to do except dig in and solve it. And again, I guess I'd never thought about it in terms of a a solo cockpit before, but I think all of that practice gives you a certain amount of confidence, or, when you're faced with something that just feels really overwhelming because you have, had the oil malfunction with your single seat jet, single cockpit over Afghanistan. If you can dig in and solve that problem and do the right things, even though it's pretty scary, doing other leadership things that don't involve, loss of life or limb, but are just really intimidating, all of a sudden seem far more doable, I guess.
So let me. I think that's a good answer. Let me ask you it from a different way. For
Would
the
you tell
sake.
me if it was a bad answer?
No, it's a good answer. I would tell you it's a bad answer, but not in a bad way. Like I would be nice about it. Or I would go deeper. But I would also think that single seat, as we all are, I think we realize how much we rely on so many other people external to the aircraft, and we have an appreciation for those folks and appreciation for what they bring to the table. And I think
Oh, yeah.
we're I don't know. I mean, I'm going to speak for you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we're more sensitive to the fact if they're having a bad day or something they're going through, because we've all been in those leadership positions where their um their mindset, their mental state that day can make or break what your flight's going to be about. And so we're connected in that way, even though they may not know that. And I think we're able to hone that ability for single seat folks, as opposed to maybe, flying with a crew of 3 or 4. Because yeah, that's just something that I've seen. I feel like I'm more connected with my maintenance guys. I'm more connected with the PSD personnel. I'm more connected, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I understand that a lot more than being in a huge crew aircraft and then we're done for the day and we all high five and walk away. I don't know how like the KC community or the RC community works. So
I think what you said there, really confidence, right? Like, and that's what you said, Princess. Like, I have confidence in myself, so it gives me confidence in difficult situations, gives me confidence in getting other people through their difficult situations. But then, like you were saying, Merrill, I have confidence in my crew chief. I have confidence in the guys who set up my gear. I have confidence in, everybody who touched that airplane that day to send me out on this hours-long mission. And I think really like the cornerstone to leadership and to empathy and to authenticity is really trust. Like, you trust your machine, you trust the people that worked on it, you trust your whole team, even when you're up there single seat by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. I mean, of all the roles that I've had, I think the folks who you're leading to have trust in you, and I don't know if it's getting to the point where vulnerable leadership is almost sounding a little bit catchphrasy or that kind of thing, but I think it's just so absolutely true, and that was certainly my experience. I feel like people have this kind of vision in their mind of, leader is like strong and knows what to do and just whatever. But that's not the case at all, or I don't think it should be the case, because like there's always stuff going wrong in any unit. Like there's just, there always is. And so if no one trusts you or feels confident that they'll be listened to, people are going to stop coming to you, and the problems are still there, but now you're just not going to know about them, and you're not going to be able to help fix them or anything like that. And then one of the biggest things too, I think, is just kind of continuing to unpack that is folks just being comfortable coming and talking to you, that if they make a mistake, you're not going to crush them or anything like that, because I mean you've got to have people feel comfortable making honest mistakes. Otherwise, no one's going to push the boundaries or, figure out that, if you use dental putty to measure the crack inside a U2, then you don't have to pull off the wing. Which is there. I've got so many fun stories. Our most junior airmen were the ones who blew me away the most with their creativity. If you unleash them and say, I trust you, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead. Let's try the dental putty, because your roommate's a dental technician and we can't get at that crack to measure it without pulling the wing off. Yeah, sure, let's do it. Right.
I
And
love
so
that.
I know I've just completely taken a right turn and, taken it down a rabbit hole. But Blaze, when you said, having trust, I think that is just so incredibly huge. But there's no way to get trust if you're just sort of try to be this strong, silent, you know, leader. Nobody trusts that they're going to be listened to or believed or supported or whatever unless there's leadership through empathy and vulnerability and just being a regular person and listening and asking questions and being okay having it be clear that like you don't have all the answers. I mean, that's why you've got your team.
Well, no, I mean you hit a nail on the head, both of you. There's strength and vulnerability. Most people, I think, especially in our age group, and maybe recently, people think there's strength in just lifting weights or being strong, but there's an emotional intelligence component of that, and that's how you build that trust in people. Because if people see that you're fallible, but you're able to be your best self every day, then it makes them feel that way. So,
Yeah.
That's how you build that trust.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by guests on All Fire No Smoke are their own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the All Fire No Smoke production team, including hosts, producers, directors, and consultants. The content presented here is for entertainment and general information purposes only. The All Fire No Smoke name, trademark, and logos, and all forms of content are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service, and cannot be used without the express written consent of All Fire No Smoke.